Hey now everybody, this is Professor Island, and today we're discussing grammar. Specifically, we are discussing sentence structure and run-ons and comma splices. In order to understand what a sentence error is, you need to understand what a sentence is. Technically, a sentence or an independent clause is a set of words that can stand by themselves as an independent clause. The reason it's called independent is because it doesn't need any other sentence or other phrase to allow it to stand by itself. In American English, generally that means you need a subject and a verb, and in some cases all you need is the verb. For example, the sentence run, which is an imperative, has the verb run, but it also implies that the subject of it is you, because if somebody yells run, they're talking to you, and really what they mean is you run. They just don't have time to say it that way. To that end, however, most sentences require a subject, the dog, a verb, ran, and then you can have other stuff. You can say where he ran down the street, or you can see how he ran quickly, or something along those lines. But what really makes that sentence is the subject and the verb. What happens is sometimes you have a regular sentence that's perfectly fine, an independent clause, and if you add a word to it, it changes it into a non-sentence. Something like, I was a kid is a sentence. I is the subject, was is the verb, and a kid is the predicate. Well, the deal is, if you put the word when in front of that sentence, when I was a kid, now you have a non-sentence, because this is a dependent clause which now expects more information to tell us what happened. When I was a kid, I was shorter. Or when I was a kid, I loved playing baseball. Something along those lines. The idea is understanding what a sentence is fundamentally important to writing good essays, because you're trying to impart information in a way that really is coded through the notion that we all speak the same language and there are certain rules to that language. And as part of that, if you're trying to explain something about a literary theory or about some kind of critical approach or something along those lines, if you cannot articulate yourself in basic English grammar, you're going to have a hard time getting that idea across. And that transcends English. It also goes into your humanities courses, your history class, whatever. Any class that requires that you put your thoughts down in written form on a piece of paper. To that end, one of the problems that students often have is the comma splice and run-on. Simply put, comma splices and run-ons occur when you connect two independent clauses, two complete sentences, with commas or no punctuation at all instead of a period or a semicolon. Generally, the way this happens is one of two things. One, you simply run two sentences together. The idea is that you need to break these up. For example, if we look at some examples on my website, a sentence like, I'm hungry now, I want a cheeseburger. Those are two sentences. I'm hungry now is a sentence. I want a cheeseburger is a sentence. To simply run them together with no punctuation makes it a run-on. To separate them legally, put either a period or a semicolon between the word now and the second I, and you will have your independent clauses isolated correctly. The other option is to add a comma with a conjunction. Conjunction and, but, or, for, yet, or so. To put between those two sentences. So something like, I'm hungry now, comma, and I want a cheeseburger. In either case, what you're doing is you're separating those two independent clauses out legally and correctly. What often happens in the essays that I get is that people run two things together because they think one thought leads to the next one and you can't separate them out. For example, in the sentence, her music touches the listeners, thus they are able to feel her pain. The conclusion the person's making is that her music touches the listener. And then she uses the word thus, which is words like therefore, thus. Furthermore, these are these conjunctive adverbs that draw not only the two sentences together, but also add some kind of notion that we're coming to some kind of conclusion. You still have to separate those with either a period or a semicolon before that word, thus, and then a comma after it. And so the correct way to do this would be something like, her music touches the listener's period, thus, comma, they are able to feel her pain, or her music touches the listener's semicolon, thus, comma, they are able to feel her pain. And again, this works with therefore, other words like however, conversely, on the other hand. Anytime you connect these two sentences, these two complete ideas, with one of these adverbials, it should be semicolon before and comma after that word in order to connect the two sentences. Another one has to do with the whole cause and effect thing. For example, I did my essay, I just didn't read the story. And what you're doing is you're giving a sentence and then you're finishing the sentence with the kind of the added notion that you want to attach to it. In certain languages, like Spanish, for example, where they don't have semicolons, this sentence would be written technically as, I did my essay, comma, I just didn't read the story. And it would make sense in Spanish because in that case, when you have these two ideas together, you connect them with commas. In English, however, we can't do that. That would create another problem called a comma splice. Instead, what we do is we use the semicolon. The semicolon acts like a period, except it has the added notion of connecting the two sentences together. And in this case, what you would say is, I did my essay, semicolon, I just didn't read the story. And what you're telling the reader is that I just didn't read the story is directly related to the fact that I did the essay. In fact, in the same vein, you have the comma splices that are quite common, and very often they occur because the individual wants to connect the two sentences together, but they sense when they're writing the two sentences that they're really two separate phrases that need to be separated somehow. You have to use semicolons or periods instead of commas, such as, he said that life could be hard, take it day by day. In this particular case, one sentence explains what the guy said. The second one is actually using that particular person's words. And to separate these out, ideally what you'd do is you'd say, he said that life could be hard, semicolon, take it day by day. In the same vein, you have these comma splices that are created, like in the other example, where you have two ideas that you really want to put right together. One is drawn from the other. It doesn't matter who you are, we are all the same inside. And again, putting a comma there creates a comma splice. Instead, you want to use a semicolon there. It doesn't matter who you are, semicolon, we are all the same inside. Sometimes what you have is you make a commentary about what an author said, and then you tell me what they said. Again, separate that with a semicolon or a period. Vaughan was right, semicolon, the littlest things keep us close to the ones we love, or Vaughan was right, comma, for the littlest things keep us close to the ones we love. The important thing here is that when you're creating sentences, you should have a general idea what a complete sentence is. And practicing, writing, reading is going to help you on all those things. However, when you are writing an essay and you're trying to connect ideas, what you may find is that you really want to put two things together, two sentences together that need to be closer together than just what the period tells you. This is where the semicolon will help you, and it will allow you to take two independent clauses, two complete sentences, stick them next to each other, but really say to the reader, me, I want these two ideas together. And it will also help you to avoid the comma splice run-on problem. If you get your paper back, or you get a response from me, but mostly if you get your paper back, and I've circled a comma and I write CS, that means you're writing a comma splice, and I want you to either use a semicolon there or a period. If I simply put a line between two words that basically are both, the sentence on either side of them, and I'll put run-on, what I'm saying is that you need either a semicolon or period there, and what you've done is you run them on without any intervening punctuation whatsoever. Keep working on these elements. This is all a matter of practice. It's a matter of recognition. But certainly when you get your paper back, when I highlight or circle something, I'm giving you examples. I want you to go through the entire paper and look for these, because most people who write in this particular fashion with comma splices and run-ons do more than one. And the idea is that you're going to go through and try to find them. And the more you practice this, the more you find them, the better you will find that your papers come out in terms of both structure, but also in terms of grade. Okay? Stay in touch.